For generations, our tribe has called the Inland Empire region our home. We take pride in supporting our neighbors and the world around us. As one of the largest employers in the area, committed to the growth and prosperity of our community, we work to support many important local causes. Our tribe will always be here for this community, honoring our history, celebrating our culture, building a brighter future for us all.
This is Indian Country Today.
Esquili, yes, thank you for joining us. I'm Patty Thalohungva. Here are the headlines for Wednesday, October 7th. This year's MacArthur Foundation Genius Award winners are announced and includes a Sikanju Lakota playwright. Larissa FastHorse is being recognized for her exceptional work in the arts. The award comes with a no-strings-attached grant of $625,000 paid over 5 years. The foundation recognizes those for their creativity in their artistic, intellectual, and professional pursuits. FastHorse says her Lakota heritage inspires and saturates every aspect of her work.
I think as a Native American Lakota playwright, I have a unique view of the theater world that other playwrights don't. From the beginning of my career, it's been important to find ways to include Indigenous peoples and populations into my work. Creating works that not only tell Indigenous stories and use Indigenous ways of thinking, but they also provide greater access to them to have agency over the way that they're portrayed.
Her plays use comedy and satire to explore a wide range of topics specific to Indian country. In our coverage of Native Vote 20, Indian Country Today is following the races of 14 Native American candidates running for Congress. A few are incumbents, but most are hoping to sit in Congress for the first time, like Democrat Tricia Zunker from the Ho-Chunk Nation. She's running for a U.S. House seat in Wisconsin's 7th District, which is heavily Republican. Wisconsin is a swing state, flipping for Trump in 2016 after voting for Obama in 2012. If elected, Zunker could be that state's first Native American member of Congress. Tribal people across the country continue to struggle when it comes to mailing in their ballots. In Nevada, the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribal citizens receive their mail in shared P.O. boxes at the reservation's only post office. And the post office in Nixon, Nevada is only open from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., severely restricting access for tribal members. Advocates are concerned that residents in rural reservations who lack transportation will struggle to get to a post office or a polling place. Post offices on tribal lands will play a huge role in ensuring access to voting rights for many Native Americans in Nevada and elsewhere. And now, Jordan Benebigay has an update on COVID-19.
Leaders across the country, including those at the White House, are becoming infected with and dying from COVID-19. In Oklahoma, Governor Reggie Wasana of the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribe tested positive for the virus. He said he contracted COVID-19 from someone he had lunch with who also tested positive. On Monday, he said, quote, "Currently, I feel fine and I'm trying to resume a normal life without going anywhere, but it's tough." He said his symptoms included a mild headache and a runny nose, but no fever. The tribe wrote in an executive order that it has lost several tribal citizens to COVID-19 and that the number of cases continue to rise in the tribe's territory at an exponential rate. A few months ago, Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians Chief Cyrus Ben also battled the disease. He suffered from fever and chills. In addition to that, Lena Denson, who is a former First Lady for the tribe, died from COVID-19. Her husband was Beasley Denson. 1,147 have tested positive at the Choctaw Health Center, and there have been 81 deaths for the tribe. And in June, the Cocopah tribe, located in southwestern Arizona, lost its vice chairman to COVID-19. Johnson Deal Begay Jr. died from the disease in Yuma, Arizona. He is believed to be one of the first tribal leaders in the U.S. to die from it. The number of COVID-19 cases for one tribe in North Dakota has doubled since the end of August. Yesterday, the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara Nation reported a total of 303 cases. That's 160 cases more compared to nearly 6 weeks ago. There's also been an increase of hospitalizations in the state. The North Dakota tribe has a total of 3 COVID-19 related deaths. A Hopi tribal leader, and a Cecilio village leader died of COVID-19 as well. Now let's take a look at the latest numbers from the Indian Health Service and their database for the death count. There are 53,565 positive cases in the Indian Health Service, according to the Indian Health Service. In our database, there are 815 deaths in the Indian health system. Again, that's a total of 53,565 positive cases, according to IHS, and 815 deaths in the Indian health system as of October 7th. In Washington, Jordan Bennett Begay, Indian Country Today.
And those are the headlines from Indian Country Today for Wednesday, October 7th. I'm Patty Thalahungva. When we come back, we're going to visit with Larissa FastHorse, a newly named MacArthur Fellow. Have you heard of the MacArthur Awards? Each year, the foundation selects individuals they recognize for outstanding work in the arts, education, and other professional pursuits. It's also known as the Genius Award, and it comes with a prize of $625,000, which the winner can spend any way they choose. Each year, the list of those fortunate winners is highly anticipated, and this year, Larissa FastHorse is among the winners. She is Shikanju Lakota and is a playwright. Welcome, Larissa.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your award. And you've known about receiving the award, even though the announcements were just made yesterday, but you've known for a month. How did you keep it all to yourself?
It's really hard, and they are serious about their secrecy. My assistant read one of my emails before I had a chance to move it somewhere where she couldn't see it, and they freaked out. They're really worried about it. Secrecy is essential, so you're only allowed to tell one other human. So I told my husband, and then my assistant knew, so she was able to help me out with a lot of the things he had to do to prepare for the announcement.
Well, I'm sure that must have been a surprise for you. I mean, in your career, people work really hard, in their careers, and then to be honored and recognized like this has got to be just amazing.
Yeah, it was really shocking. I had absolutely no idea. I mean, people often said, oh, you kind of knew it was happening, because they interview people for up to a year before you get the award, people in your field, people that you've worked with, et cetera. And I had absolutely no idea. I was completely shocked. In fact, I thought they were calling to hire me to help them create maybe a new Indigenous program or something. I had no idea that this is what it was for.
Wow. Well, the award comes with this nice cash prize, and we'll get to that in a minute here, but you were recognized for, they said, creating this space for Indigenous artists and stories and experience in mainstream theater and countering the misrepresentation of Native American perspectives in the broader society. Can you talk a little bit about the work that you've done?
Yeah, I've been so fortunate to be able to do work with a lot of different Indigenous communities, and then also with different theater companies, connecting them to their local Indigenous communities. So I kind of have two tracks of work. One of them you're very familiar with, which was with Cornerstone Theater Company. And we've been working with Indigenous communities so far in Los Angeles, in the greater Phoenix, Arizona area, and now we're working in South Dakota with my people, the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota people. And creating large pieces where people tell their own stories and represent themselves in those stories. And then on the other side, I've been working in traditional theater companies, telling stories that Indigenous people ask me to tell. Again, I consult with Indigenous folks and say, what do you want told? How do you want to be represented? And then I do a lot of work in these traditional theaters to connect them. I always say you need to know who your local Indigenous people are. and we find a way to make sure that they're all connected, that they start to have a relationship, and that they start to give back, because theaters are living on stolen land, and it's really important to me that they understand that, and I facilitate those connections to get them to see how they can start giving back to Native people.
And what are some of the misrepresentations your plays have tackled?
Oh, wow, so many. Where do we start, right? I just think theater is incredible, and that we're smart, intelligent, contemporary people. I had a woman at a theater gathering once say to me, "I never would have guessed you're Native American. You're so well spoken." People still say things like that. This is an educated woman, so we've all heard it, but I think it's really important that the rest of the world hasn't heard it. Also, for instance, in Los Angeles, when I was working with indigenous people there from this land, the Tongva, Quiche, Gabrielino people, they said, look, we want you to write to the white people. We will need them to know we exist, because they were declared extinct by the federal government and they have not been able to get recognition back. And so they said, look, we need you to tell them, because we need all the allies we can get to help us. And they are still fighting for that recognition today. But whatever little bit I can do through theater to help more people understand those fights, I'm thrilled to be able, that people will trust me and give me the ability to tell their stories in the ways that they want them to be told.
Well, the arts through the years, of course, has always been that segment that really can shine a light on social injustice and put it in a way that maybe is less threatening than, say, a protest or something like that. And now, we're living in a time of a pandemic, So what kind of art are you creating in this pandemic?
Yeah, it's interesting because my theater my theater work, I write forward. I try to write to the future and what we're going to be facing next. And to be honest, I don't know, right? Because things have been so crazy that I really don't know what's coming next. So it's been hard for me to work on theater pieces. We were right in the middle of working on our piece in South Dakota, which is a long-term community engaged piece. We're spending time with people. We have all these wonderful community partners. We were going to spend the whole summer there, and then the pandemic hit. And so we really changed our focus right away. Obviously, we're not traveling. We're based in California, and we didn't want to be, we were such a bad state as far as spreading COVID, so we did not want to risk that. So we're staying here in California. We're doing analog ways of connecting. We're getting masks from different theater communities, having theater people make masks and send them to different indigenous communities. We've been working with the Hopi and the Dene nations up there in Apache land in Arizona, and using our contacts in the theater world to get supplies, get things to people when they needed it. And so that's really where we switched our focus to while we've been waiting out, when we can gather again and start making theater.
Well, so everything is kind of on hold here, and it's just interesting. I mean, how do you, I never thought I'd live in the pandemic. What about you? What are your thoughts of being in the pandemic and living through this? Because, you're a writer, you have an opportunity to write, and in a generation, 100 years from now, people are going to look back and see how we reacted in this pandemic.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I've been fortunate that I've had work during this time. I have some film and television work I've been doing. I wrote a movie for Disney, and I have a TV project I'm developing at NBC, and some other projects I'm putting together. So I've had work for hire, my job work that I've had to deliver during this time. So I've really been focused on that, which has been such a gift, so that my family can continue to, live and pay our rent and buy food during this time when the theaters are all closed. I lost a tremendous amount of work from theater when all the theaters closed. However, yeah, I'm not sure yet how I'm going to write about this time. I do have a digital piece that's going to be coming out sometime either this winter or early next spring. That is what I felt like we needed right now. It's about joy. And it's about trying to use this strange digital space that you and I are on right now, and helping us mourn, helping us grieve, but then also helping us together move on to joy, because I feel like that's what we're missing right now. There's so much grief and so much mourning. And when you're in person, we support each other through that, and then we get to a better, more cathartic place. And so I'm going to see if there's a way to do that online through theater and help us all have just a little bit of joy in the middle of all this difficulty.
Well, it certainly is a need there, that joy, because in this pandemic, people are not able to get out and be together. And I know people who've been on Zoom in the morning at a funeral service and in the afternoon at a wedding. So it's a different world that we're in right now. Let's go back to your writing here. As a writer, do you have total control of your characters, or do they sometimes surprise you?
Oh, my characters always surprise me. I have no idea what they're going to do. I don't write from outlines. I write very organically. I do a lot of research, and when I say research as an Indigenous person, I mean a lot of first-person research, right? Because we can't trust everything that's written down, right? Probably most of what's written down in history and such. So I do a lot of interviews, talk to a lot of people, pay a lot of consultants to talk with me, and tell me, what's appropriate to put in my plays. And then I put all that information in my head, and suddenly characters appear, and they just start talking, and they start doing things. And once they go, I just write down what they say as fast as I can, and I don't know what's going to happen. I once had a character kill himself, and I was so upset. I started burst into tears. The woman at the next table, I was in a coffee shop, asked me if I was okay. I was so upset because I had no idea he was going to do that. And so, it's wild how they take on their own life. But then, then there's a vetting process after that, right? So once I've written down what they've done and how they're going to speak to each other and gotten to some kind of end, then there's this whole process where then I bring these stories back to the community, and I bring the script back and say, what did I get right? What did I get wrong? What needs to be changed? And then I also, as a dramatist, which is what a playwright is, I then have to go through and craft with different collaborators a really well-told story, make sure it takes the audience on the journey we want it to go on. And so, there's all that happens that where hopefully I can wrangle the characters into doing some things I want them to do, but I don't always win.
Well, it sounds like an incredible process there. How do you know when to end a play?
Wow, yeah, that's a good question. They tend to just stop, honestly, because I see it like almost like a movie in my head. And the characters tend to just find themselves in ending, and they stop. And then again, the rewrite process, right? So this whole process of going back to community and working with collaborators, often the endings get rewritten the most. They may be rewritten, 30, 40, 50 times before you finally see it on the stage. I mean, that's how often things get reworked as a playwright. And that's just part of the job is, rewriting, and getting a lot of input from a lot of people until we all agree that we think we got it right.
And so when you're, I once had a creative writing teacher tell me that every word you put down is like your little baby. And so when an editor comes along and takes away your words, they're taking away your babies. How do you distance yourself from that so you don't feel personally upset when your writing has changed? And that could come from an actor in the play or somebody else.
Yeah, well, it doesn't mean I don't feel upset, but but I'm really fortunate that I started into writing actually in film and television first, and that is a ruthless place to be a writer. You don't own the work, so you're just a writer for hire, meaning they hire you to write this thing, but the studio or the network or whoever, they own everything you write. So you don't have final say over how it's portrayed or what's said. And so I started in that world, so I was used to that. That's just how it is. And so when I got into theater, where the playwright has final say, because I own all my plays, and I'm finally the person that has control over who gets to do them, it was really interesting when people were so precious about stuff. I'm like, oh, that's fine. If you don't like it, we'll just cut it. Oh, just cut that scene. It doesn't matter. I'm not precious about it at all. I mean, yeah, I might miss it, but the thing that's wonderful about writing is there's an infinite number of words. Like, they never run out. So you can use all these words, and then you can erase all these words, and then there's going to be just as many words to replace them, that they never run out. And so I just have a real trust that between myself and my skill and my imagination and all the collaborators and all the communities I work with, there are enough words that'll last forever, and I don't have to worry about them. So these go, new ones will come in, and I just trust that process. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it does hurt because I'll be like, oh, I love that scene, but then I'll find a way to use something like it in a different script. It just didn't belong there, and they'll go somewhere else.
That's great, Larissa. So it's always interesting to hear what non-natives say when they learn something about Native Americans for the first time. And you mentioned a few comments that you've had personally, but from your plays, what are some of the comments you can share with us people have said, once they've been enlightened?
Yeah, it's a mix, right? I mean, I've had some really negative things said, or some just really goofy things. I wrote a play once, and I don't read reviews actually now, but I did early in my career, and I've chosen just to stop for my own good. health and creativity. But one early one I read was a play called What Would Crazy Horse Do? And it very clearly said in the program that this is a fictional tribe I created for this particular play. It's a tribe that's about to go extinct. It's about the last 2 members. So it's a fictional tribe. And, it explains that. And the reviewer said, well, FastHorse didn't teach us anything about this tribe. They didn't help this tribe at all. No one left understanding them. And, all these things. I was like, it's not real. Like, it's just, people put that pressure on us that everything we do has to be educational and cultural. And my job is to be an artist and tell good stories. That's how I educate, is to help people feel empathy and connect with Indigenous people in our stories in a different way. The good news is, I'd say the vast majority of people that at least I hear from, people are pretty nice, after they come to my plays, are really moved and really moved and my goal, I don't preach at people. My goal is not to beat people into guilt. My goal is to motivate people into action. And so when people come to my plays, again and again, I hear them saying, I had no idea, but now I know I have to do more. I had no idea, how do I help? Or I hear messages from people in theaters later, we made this incredible connection with our local Native community, and now we're doing these big projects together, and we've employed a bunch of Native artists, and it's just so exciting. And that's what I hope, that to me, that's the best possible thing, is to move people to action as opposed to just guilt or sadness or frustration. I really want people to do that. And for Indigenous people, the goal is simply to represent you as best I can. And I certainly make mistakes like anybody, but I really do my hardest and work the hardest to make sure that I'm properly representing the stories that Native people trust me to tell.
That's great. So really quickly, Larissa, how are you spending this money?
I have no idea. My husband and I were, under the poverty line just a couple years ago. So right now we're just wrapping our brain around being able to pay our bills for at least 5 years, and then we'll figure out next how to spend the money in collaboration with my Native partners on projects I'm working with.
Thank you so much for joining us, Larissa FastHorse, just named as a MacArthur Foundation Fellow.
Thank you so much for having me.
And when we come back, you've probably seen the viral video. We're going to hear from the man who made it.
This is Indian Country Today.
Who knew running late for work would end up making you a worldwide sensation? Well, that's what happened to a Northern Arapaho man whose TikTok video is trending around the world. At a time when social media is flooded with posts about the election and coronavirus, his video is giving many some much-needed positive vibes. Aaliyah Chavez spoke to Nathan Apodaca.
A skateboard, bottle of juice, and a Fleetwood Mac song. It's the TikTok video seen by millions. Meet 37-year-old Nathan Apodaca, a Northern Arapaho and Mexican TikToker whose video went viral. He made it while running late for work. He says he was having car trouble.
Oh yeah, and then I was going to work, and then my battery shuts out like all the time, and then I need to jump. So I was sitting there at the stoplight, whatever, boom, shuts off, pulled it over. I got less than 15 minutes to get to work. So I reached over, grabbed my skateboard, grabbed my juice, because I always have my juice, every morning. Started going, pressed the video, pressed record.
He got to work with 4 minutes to spare.
And I'm sitting there looking at the video, and I'm like, man, I ain't even going fast. Everybody's going to say I'm slow, I don't know how to ride. I was like, man, I don't even know if I want to post it, you know what I mean? So,
but he did. Within 24 hours, his video was seen 1.2 million times, and reactions poured in from around the world. The 1997 song Dreams by Fleetwood Mac was streamed more than 8.4 million times, capturing its largest streaming week ever. Even Mick Fleetwood, the drummer and co-founder of the band, recreated Apodaca's video, telling him when the coronavirus is over, they should create a video together. All of this buzz resulted in Apodaca hiring a manager, saying he's had an overwhelming demand for media interviews.
It's awesome because through an app, you know what I mean? You can make somebody smile, you can make somebody's day. And I get so many texts, so many messages of people just, saying I made their day.
Supporters have sent Apodaca money through PayPal, where he's racked up more than $26,000, something he says he's grateful for.
Now, I counted yesterday, I've spent $19,000 on my mom and everybody. and I got, I think, about 7,000 left.
The other part of the video that I think a lot of people, especially Native people, sort of saw and said, oh my goodness, like I love that, is the tattoo, the feathers on your head.
Yeah.
Could you tell us how
Yeah.
you got that tattoo and maybe the meaning behind it?
On the top, I don't know if you guys ever see it or notice, but there's the Northern Arapaho flag on the top, and it has the feathers coming down. Nothing but love for my mama, you know, she's 100% Northern Arapaho, you know. She grew up on the res, you know.
In all of this media attention, he wants to make sure he stays true to himself. He also has words of encouragement for Native people.
I just want to say to the indigenous people out there, you know what I mean, stay strong, you know what I mean. I know times are rough right now, especially on the res, you know what I mean. Get out there and make videos, go do what you want, because I've been seeing a lot of natives on TikTok now just blowing up, you know. And follow your fellow natives, follow each other, and just, like I said, be one with each other, you know?
In Albuquerque, Aaliyah Chavez, Indian Country Today.
And just yesterday, the Ocean Spray Juice Company presented Nathan Apodaca with a truck loaded with what else? Cranberry juice. And that does it for Indian Country Today. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. Your life is precious. I'm Patty Tawahungva. Join us again tomorrow.
Indian Country Today is recorded at the Phoenix Indian School Visitor Center in Phoenix, Arizona.
This is Indian Country Today.